I'm just going to start off by introducing myself. I'm Officer Hamrick. I'm the school resource officer for the district. I've been a police officer for 10 years, and 5 of that years was as a Washington State Trooper, and the last 5 years have been here next door in Steilacoom. So I've been in the school districts talking to students and staff and you guys for the last 2 years, and now I'm here to talk about some, what can otherwise be kind of some scary stuff that we have to talk about. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the news and you've seen all this bad stuff going on around the country in schools, and we want to make sure that we get all of you guys ahead of the game. So put some tools in your toolboxes. That way, if something were to happen, you guys are going to know what to do. So that way we can get rid of some questions you might have, and we might be able to give you some answers. That way you know where you can go, what you can do if something bad were to happen. So I've been doing a lot of active shooter training as a police officer, where we go into schools during summertime when you guys are at home and you guys are having a good time, and we go into schools and learn how to respond in case a school shooting happens. Now I've done that, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 times at different schools around the county, and it's great training. But that being said, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do if something bad were to happen. The question is, do you know what you can do, what your choices are? So that's what we want to talk about today, as well as kind of warning signs and behaviors and what we want you guys doing to help prevent something bad from happening. So, all right. So I'll start off by giving, this is what the Department of Homeland Security, our government, says is the definition of what an active shooter is. It is an individually actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined or in populated area. In most cases, active shooters use firearms, and there is no pattern or method to their selection of victims. That's just the definition, that's what they say it is, and we're here to talk about it. All right, so warning signs. This is the most important part of it, in my opinion. We want to make sure that we can try and prevent something bad from happening. And the biggest piece of helping prevent it comes from you guys. You guys know your friends, and you know your family members, and you know the people around you, and you know yourselves a lot better than I do. So if you guys aren't talking to me about, or talking to your principal or administrators about things that don't seem right, don't seem normal, or you see something that maybe somebody brings something to school that shouldn't be here. They bring a knife to school, or they bring a gun to school. You need to tell us. Those are important. Those are things that we need to know, because otherwise we won't know. There is no profile of a shooter. There's no way to look around and say, you know what, you and you and you look like a shooter, so you guys are going to jail. It doesn't work like that. It'd be nice if it did, because then we could stop everything bad from happening. So we need your help, basically. We need you guys to help. Don't be afraid. There's nothing. The term snitch is something we hear a lot. I don't want to be a snitch. Well, sometimes that is completely okay to do, because you're protecting yourself. You're protecting your friends, your family, you're protecting anybody else, and it doesn't always mean somebody's going to be getting in a lot of trouble. It means that we're going to be able to talk to them and address them and say, hey, you know what, whatever you're doing, your behavior, the threats you made, or the thing you're taking to school is not allowed, it's not okay, it's dangerous. So people don't just snap. They don't just go from being great and being normal and their normal behavior to all of a sudden they're going to come to school and they're going to shoot it up. That's just not how it works. There's behaviors, there's patterns, there's things you notice. There's depression, or there's use of substance abuse, of drugs or alcohol, things that they don't normally do, or they start having a fascination with guns and weapons and shooting things, and all these little things. You might see one of these things in a friend of yours, and it's concerning, but it doesn't mean that they're going to go to school and shoot the school. But it's a sign. It's something that you can bring up, because somebody else might have seen a different part of it. You might only be seeing a small piece of it, and 4 or 5 people have all seen a little different piece, and those things need to be brought to us so we can address it and stop anything. So again, we need your help. It's better to report it. Better to say, hey, you know what, I'm a little concerned about my friend, kind of going down a bad path, and report it and be wrong, rather than not report it and find out 2 years later that you were right and something bad happened and you knew about it. Well, we'll go back one more thing on this. Threats have been, we've been hearing about threats a lot more lately, and you guys got to understand that things that you're saying, even in a joking manner, if you're concerned about anybody, anything, you need to bring it to an adult and not just start talking about active shooter stuff in a joking manner, because people are taking it seriously, and they should. So if you're just walking around and you're making comments about shooting up a school or having a gun, or even if you're joking, people are going to take it seriously, and you're going to be getting called down and talking to a couple police officers and your principals. So we got to make sure that we are not joking about these subjects, all right? Okay, so just with the show of hands, how many of you guys know exactly what to do if there's a fire alarm goes off? Probably every one of you. All right, if the fire alarm goes off, you know that you guys are going to evacuate, you guys are going to go outside, and you guys are going to line up and wait to be counted. Now, if the lockdown alarm goes off, how many of you know exactly what you're supposed to do? Okay, now that's if you're in the classroom, I'm sure, right? Now, how many of you know exactly what you should do if you are out at the football field? Or if you are in the hall or at lunch? A lot less hands than to know exactly what you should do if the lockdown alarm goes off. And that's what we want to address today, because we've been doing fire drills since 1958, and that's because there were a lot of people killed in a fire at a school in 1958. So what did they do? They put in sprinklers, they put in fire alarms, they started training people to evacuate, started telling everybody exactly what they should do in the case of a fire. And not one person in the last 60 years has been killed in a fire in the school. It's kind of an impressive turnaround. They used to have a lot of people killed in fires. So our state law has been getting better, and they've been working around making sure we address the current problems, which are active shooters, and we want to make sure you guys are safe. So that's why I'm here, to see if we can make school shootings go away, or at least way down, make them very rare. So when it comes to doing drills, and you guys might think, okay, well, here we're doing another drill, just line up, let's go outside. It's raining, is it boring? No. Well, let's use it as a time to be able to actively think about what you would do. Let's think about your options and your choices, and say, you know what, we're doing a lockdown drill, and I'm in the bathroom. What would I actually do if this was real? I gotta change it back.
So you're just keeping the camera on him.
All right, can you hear me? Okay. So use these drills. Like I said, if you're in the bathroom and we're doing a lockdown drill, think about it. What would you do? Where would I go? Can I go back to my classroom?
No.
Might not be an option. The classroom doors might be locked, and we'll get to part of that in a little bit later. But you got to start thinking, okay, where would I run? Can I stay in the bathroom? Is there a lock on it? Probably not. Is there a door outside? Can I run outside? Possibly. So there are things for you to think about, because you do have options and you do have choices. You don't just have to sit there and hide and wait. So, and we'll address a lot of that in a little bit, but use drills to actively think and actively participate and prepare yourself. Doesn't mean you gotta be scared, but just prepare yourself. So, if there was something big that happened in our school, so as you see, I put down what if right here. So that is a game that in police and law enforcement, we play. So everybody that goes to the academy, we're taught to play the what if game, or the when game. And what that means is, if I pull a car over and I get out and I'm opening my door, the car's up in front of me, I've already thought through like 10 different scenarios. Right? What would I do if the driver gets out and has a gun? What would I do? I've already played through that scenario, so I know exactly what I would do. Okay, so now what if I walk up to the door and they turn around and they start punching at me? Well, I've thought about what I would do. I might grab their hand, and I've got different tactics and things I would do. Or if I'm doing field sobriety tests and I'm this close to somebody And if they decided they wanted to punch me, how would I react? So it's just playing through scenarios in my head. That way I'm prepared. The more you play through these scenarios, the better prepared you're going to be. So that's not a bad thing, and that's something that I would like everybody to be doing. If you're outside and you're not even at school, if you're just out riding a bike or you're out playing with your friends, hey, what would I do if somebody pulled up in a van and said, hey, come here, I need directions? First of all, don't go. You run and scream and you yell and you go home. But those are little things you can think about to help prepare you in case something happens. All right. So you kind of have three options when it comes to being in any high stress event, which includes being in a place where gunfire starts going off. It doesn't just mean a school. It could be anywhere. You have run, hide, or fight. And I'm sure you kind of all know this anyway. You can probably run away, you can fight, you can hide. But those are the only three things you really got to think about and you got to react to. The one I like to talk about first is hiding, because that's going to be the most important part of it. You guys are in the classroom most of the day, and if something were to happen, you're in a classroom, so that's a safe place. So there's some things you got to think about. Okay, well, if you're hearing loud bangs, I don't care. If it sounds like it could possibly be gunfire, I want you to treat it like that and start locking down. Or if you hear the lockdown alarm, treat it like it's a real thing. And where is the threat? Is it right outside? Am I hearing people yell right outside? Is it really far away? Just think about it. What is my situation right now? Can you lock down? If you're hearing things really far away, can you throw a whole bunch of stuff in front of the door and start barricading it? That's probably a good idea. Is there a window or door you can run out? Just things you can think about. But I will tell you, your classrooms are a safe place. Nobody has ever been shot in a classroom that has been appropriately locked down. So the doors are solid, they're gonna protect you, so don't leave a classroom or a safe place that you're in for an unknown. And an unknown is if you're in a classroom and you have a door, you don't want to necessarily run outside and try and get away, because that classroom is a safe place. Lock down, get into a hiding spot, and maybe barricade that door, but hide. And that's perfectly okay. And I encourage that above anything else. But in the event you aren't in a classroom or you're not in a safe place, run. And I want to make sure you guys are aware you do not have to stay at school if something bad is happening and if there's gunshots or anything like that. You guys have my permission to run away. All right? And don't come back. Run. And this goes back to the what if, the thing we were talking about. Do you know any friends that are close by? Do you know any family member that lives close by? Do you know how to get to the Starbucks or the grocery store or a gas station and ask somebody for a phone? So these are things you got to think about. Where would I go? And what are my options? Because if you're not in a classroom, you need to be getting off campus, finding the closest door and running away. And go. Because we'll find you later, but I don't want you here if there's something bad going on. All right? You have my permission to run away. So with that being said, once you leave, don't go back. And if you're not in a classroom and you're looking and you're not seeing any open doors, they're probably locked because they're supposed to be all day. We have all of our classrooms that are always locked, right? And you guys always have to knock to get in. So you're not going to be able to just run up to a door and start knocking on the door saying, hey, let me in, help, help, help. Because the person on the other side, the teachers, aren't necessarily, they're not supposed to open the door. Because they don't know if it's a good guy or a bad guy on the other side. All right? So as soon as that happens and you're not in a classroom, and if you don't see an open door, find a door and go. That's how you get to a safe place. And I can tell you just a little story about that. So we had there was a shooting that happened not on a school campus, but it was close to a school. So they go into a lockdown, which we would do here if something happened around the corner. And so while this school was locked down, they had about 20 minutes passed, and then one of the portables that they had outside of one of their outside school doors or rooms, they had some students come up and knock on the door saying, hey, let me in. So they let them in. It looked like they needed to go in, so they did, and nothing happened. But an hour later, when the police were evacuating everybody, they found out that those two people they lived in were directly involved with the shooting. They weren't the ones that had the gun, they weren't the ones that shot, but they were directly involved, and it could have been something much worse. Nobody got hurt, but that's why we don't let people in classrooms after the door's been locked, because it could be a bad guy, all right? Okay, now, fight. All right, so this is an op. Now, this is not something I want to say, I don't want anyone here to think they're gonna be a hero and say, you know what, there's a bad guy down the hall, Is it? Yep, it's still working, all right. If there's a bad guy down the hall, I don't want you to turn around and say, you know what, I'm gonna go save the day. Because that's just not a good plan. All right, I want you to run or I want you to hide first. But in the event that you don't have a choice, or you are faced with a bad guy when you're trying to run away, you have also my permission to defend yourself, and you can fight, and you fight with 100%, and you make sure that you win that fight. All right? And if you see somebody else that's fighting for their life, then I want you to, then other people can jump on and help. All right? And once you do get the bad guy down, because you'll win. I'm confident. Commit to it, and you're fighting for your life. You hold them down no matter what they say. All right? Now, if you were to get the bad guy and you were to get his gun away and his gun was on the ground, do not pick it up. All right? Under no circumstances should you pick up the gun, because I'll tell you, as soon as the police walk through that door and they see somebody holding a gun, you kind of look like the bad guy. All right, and I don't want to think that you, a good guy, is actually the bad guy. That just doesn't turn out good. All right, so what I would say to you is you walk over, you find a garbage can, and you don't turn it over. You dump out all the garbage, you put the garbage can over the gun, and you have somebody sit on that garbage can until the police show up. All right, and you have everybody else hold down the bad guy. But, I do not want to say, I want everybody running around trying to be the heroes. I want you to get to a safe place or run away. But you are allowed to defend yourself. So, that could also mean if you guys are in the classroom, and you have the whole place, the whole room locked down, and you might look around your classroom and say, you know what? If a bad guy were somehow to get in here, what could I use to defend myself? You might grab some books or grab a chair. Things like that, all right? Just in case. But, again, your room is a safe place, and I can tell you with most certainty that people aren't getting through your classroom door. You will not be punished for defending yourself either. So if you have to defend yourself because you're running around a corner and there's a bad guy there, and you have to fight him, or you have the pencil in your hand and you poke him and you stab him in the chest with it, okay, you're not going to be in trouble for defending yourself. Okay. Now, when the police show up, I'll explain what goes through with us, all right? Because this is a high-stress, very, very scary scenario for anybody, even the police when we show up. This isn't something we want to go do, but we do. We have what are called the priorities of life, okay? So for us, when we come in, our job is to make sure that we take care of the bad guy. Whether he's leaving in an ambulance or he's leaving with handcuffs on, that's our first focus. So when we put hostages up here, that means anybody, we're coming into a school to make sure that the bad guy can't hurt anyone else. So if you're hurt and you're saying, I need help, we're gonna walk right past and we're gonna go find the bad guy. And that's not because we don't like you, because I do, I like all of you guys. It's because if the longer we wait, the more chance that somebody else gets hurt is. So we're gonna walk right past and we're gonna go find the bad guy. And then we're gonna come back and then we're gonna help get you some help. So we're not gonna be the nicest people. There's gonna be hundreds of police officers that would show up, and we're not gonna be the nicest, so don't come up and ask us a bunch of questions. Hey, how's it going? How was your coffee this morning? It's not a good idea, all right? Because we're gonna say, you follow everybody else, go this direction. And we're gonna have guns out. That's just because the bad guy probably has a gun, so we'll have ours out. But if you did see something, you can tell us that. We want to know that. So we say, hey, I saw two bad guys, and it was a guy and a girl, and he had a red baseball hat on. That's information that we might want to hear. So tell us, and we might have you stay with us and tell us more, or we might say, okay, thank you, now go off to the bus, or wherever we're sending you. But follow instructions, and don't expect us to be the nicest people on those days, all right? Now when it comes to, in general, the response, now if you're seeing all these things in the news and you're hearing it from me and you're hearing it from your parents, I don't want these things to make you scared all the time, all right? This shouldn't make you scared all the time. It's a good opportunity, though, to prepare yourself, to be able to think through these things and make yourself safer. That's what it's all about. So don't let it run your life. Don't live afraid all the time, but just these things can make you stronger. Use this opportunity today to help mentally prepare yourself. You know, we have short class periods, and after this you have 2 more. You can kind of think about some of these things. Hey, what would I do? Where would I go? Use it as a way to help benefit yourself, to make yourself give yourself a plan. And then again, I want you to report suspicious behavior. A little story on that too. So there was a school in a different district, but in Washington, that had I talked to their school resource officer, and he said he knew for about a week that one of the high school kids had a gun in his backpack. But he didn't know who it was, and nobody would tell him. And so they had to go into a huge investigation. They were searching all over, they were talking to everybody they could. Finally, after a week, they find out who has the gun. Well, after even further investigation, it took them a while. They figured out that 15 different students knew that person had a gun, but they didn't tell anybody because they didn't want to be a snitch. Okay? I don't want that to happen here, all right? If you guys are hearing of anything like that, or even close to that, I expect every single one of you that knows about it or hears about it to go talk to somebody, because that's not safe, that's not okay, and you're really putting everybody's life in your own hands because you don't want to tell, and you don't want to be a snitch, okay? So report any suspicious behavior. Keep your eye on your friends and your peers. They have, like I said, you know them better than I do. So if you're seeing them act all strange and weird, and you're like, hey, this is not normal, go talk to somebody. Just let them know. We'll talk to them. See something, say something. And this is all about trying to change the culture, make these school shootings outlier. We don't want them to be seen as normal, and they shouldn't be normal. You guys should all be able to come to school and be safe. You guys can't vote yet, so don't think about that until you can vote. But educate yourself. We're doing that right now. And like I said, don't let this allow us to stay the normal. So I talked to the high school students, and they asked some good questions. So I wanted to bring some of their questions to you guys and see, and then I'll see if you guys have any extra questions as well. So one of the questions was, how fast do the police get to the school? If the police department heard that there was somebody here with a gun, and we get that call right away, your police department in DuPont is like a minute that direction. So they're going to be here very fast. At most 2 minutes, and that's if you guys call 911 right away. So police are going to be here very fast, and within 2 more minutes, you're going to have 20 cops, and within 5 more minutes, you're going to have probably about 100 police officers here. So it's going to be a lot. Oh, and this was one of the questions. I think we kind of addressed it. It says, if there was a school shooting and you got shot, talking about me, the police officer, if I got shot, and would one of you guys be able to pick up my gun and go save the day? What do you guys think? No, definitely not. So again, if you were to pick up a gun and you're not wearing this, you look like you're the bad guy, and I don't want that. So if I am looking and dealing with the bad guy, I want all of you running away. You don't stand behind me and be like, all right, I got your back. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. Now let's see. Now people ask what they should do if a shooting happens during a fire drill. All right. Now that's something that I want to talk about, because we still need to treat fire drills like they're fires, and we want to make sure that we're acting, doing everything that we should. But I do want you guys all to be aware and listen and look around, and if you see or hear things that don't sound right, then behave that way. And then you guys can react that way. Talk to your teachers, follow their instruction, because they're the ones that are going to be paying a little bit better attention, listening. So if they say, okay, we're going to stay in the classroom this time, then you just make sure you're following your teacher, all right? There were a lot of questions about what you do if something happens during when the buses get here, before or after school, or during lunches. And really the answer is the same. It's you can either run, hide, or fight. So if you're in your lunchroom and you're eating here, you have a door, you've got doors, you can run away. If you're standing right where I am and you guys, there's some people right in the front, you might have to go jump in and defend yourselves. You can run, hide, or fight. You have the same options no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. But I don't want people running. If you're outside, don't come into school, run further away. Well, I think in terms of the main question, I think that was I could probably take a few of your questions if anybody has any. You guys have any questions? Yes?
Why don't they properly license at gun shows?
Why don't they properly license at gun shows? I think it's probably because of state law right now. So in order to make those changes, once you can vote, voting is important. And then by getting the right people into office, they can influence the change that you want. So, what other questions do we have? If something happens during passing period, good question. So if you're walking through your hallway, and those are great opportunities to kind of think, where would I go? Because you know where your first and your second periods are. Where would you go? Okay, I'm walking from here, and my next one's down the hall. And if something were to happen right here, right now, you look around, you say, okay, are there open doors? Can you run into an open door class? The classroom that has an open door? Yes. And if there isn't an open door, because maybe doors are just closing for class to start, and then you should have an idea of where the stairs are to come downstairs, or where the exits are so you can get out a main door and run. But it's the same rules apply, run, hide, or fight. And you just have to kind of be aware of your surroundings, of where your options are. But I always want to make sure you're behind a locked door. So the bathrooms that don't have locks on it, bad place, don't hide there. All right, because you can't lock yourself in. So make sure that if you're hiding, you're behind a locked door, and just kind of look around. All the doors should be open, I think, in passing period, so you can jump into any classroom, and then the teacher that's in there will close the door and lock it. So, good question. Yeah?
What if you get shot and say it's a leg and then you can't move and you're in the middle of a hallway? And then, what do you do then? If you can't, really move around and the bad guy's shot?
If you get hurt and you're during one of these and you can't move very well, I'm going to encourage you to still try and move. So you're going to have to try and get to a safe place, because we always want everybody to get to a safe place. And I know these things aren't always the most exciting to talk about, but there are some good questions about how you might react with that. Way in the back. If you're outside and the bad guy's inside? Oh, it's near you outside. If you're outside and the bad guy's near you outside, well, outside you actually have a lot more options than inside. So you have, inside you might only have this hallway, or that door, but outside you have every direction possible. Take off running. Take off running. Just be as fast as you can and go as far as you can, and run until you feel safe, and then run a little farther. Right in the back. Don't play dead. Don't play dead. Don't play dead. That's not a good reaction. Thank you, though. It's something that's good to address. We don't play dead because that's just being a victim. So. If there are more than one, basically, any more than one bad guy, you can treat it the same. Get to a safe place, and that's why we don't leave a safe place. And again, your classroom is a safe place. You don't leave a safe place for somewhere that you don't know is safe. So treat it the same.
Recently, they've arrested someone with explosives. What if the person is armed with explosives or another weapon that is not just projectile?
If somebody has a bomb, basically, you're going to treat it the same. Again, that's the beauty of just having these few tools, is that you still have to stay in a safe place. And that's why you might, when you're hiding in your classroom, you might grab your pen, or you might grab something just in case. But again, people aren't getting through, and historically do not get into classrooms and do harm to people in there. They do it in the hallways, or they do it outside. So, yeah.
What if you perhaps had decided that day to wear one of your favorite cloaks that has a camouflage pattern that would help you? Let's say that you decide to lay down face first in the grass, go over the hood and pretend you're grass.
To play grass. I would say, even if you have the best camouflage on possible, still want you running, or get into a safe place, or, yeah. Right. It's a fair question. It's a fair question. All right, we have in the back here.
What if you're running and then somebody gets shot? Are you able to help them?
If you're running and what?
If somebody gets shot, are you able to help them?
If you can help somebody else that were to get shot, maybe, then possibly. But if that's the case, then they are probably got hurt in an unsafe place. So we want to make sure you can't help anybody if you get hurt yourself. So make sure to get to a safe place yourself. And then I just want to make sure that each of you that's making your own decisions is going to be able to get yourself to a safe place. The police are going to get there, and we're going to have 100 cops there very fast. And we're going to be offering as much help as we can at that point. We can do, let's just say, 2 more questions. All right, right here. That's a good question. So when the alarm goes off, the lockdown, does it tell you where the bad guy is? It does not, but your ears are going to give you a pretty good idea. So you'll be listening. You'll be listening for, if you're hearing any loud bangs that are getting louder, then you probably know it's coming closer. If you hear them getting quieter, you know they're getting farther. But what's important again is that you are very close. If you are in a safe place, you need to stay there either way in terms of where they are. So if you were to prioritize and put the most important thing is get to a safe place, get into a locked classroom or get away, then you should be just fine anyway. So, all right. What's the best thing to do when? If you're being held at gunpoint. Well, you have, again, everything goes right back to the run, hide, or fight. Okay, so you do have just those options. Now, I will tell you, a bad guy in these type of scenarios, they aren't holding people at gunpoint. So, so you're gonna just have to use one of the tools. You don't just freeze. Now, when there's a high stress situation like this is, like what we're talking about is, people either fight or flight, and then if you don't have any tools, if you don't have the run, hide, fight, you don't have anything in that you've ever thought of, that's when people actually freeze. We don't want you to freeze and just stand there and say, uh-oh, this is bad. Because freezing is plain dead, and freezing is just being a victim. So if you're met face to face with a bad guy and you can't run or you can't hide, you might have to fight. And that is an option. So I think we're gonna wrap it up for questions. You guys had some awesome questions. If you do have anything else, I would encourage you to talk. I would encourage you to talk to your teacher, or bring it up, or write a note and see if they can pass it on to me, and maybe we can get some good answers back to you. All right. Thank you guys. You guys were an awesome audience for me.